At approximately 11:38, 911 calls were received that there was an active shooting situation at the Mad Butcher grocery store in Fordyce.
14 people were shot total. 3 of those people have died. 2 officers are injured, and police tell us there was one shooter.
This is the only grocery store we got, but this is the first time something like this ever happened.
3 days after a deadly shooting rampage in Fordyce, now a sign, "We are Fordyce strong," sits atop the grocery store where it all happened.
Signs of prayers and support continue to pop up around the city as the small town tries to pick up the pieces.
This is something no city wants to hear, a mass shooting in their area, but that is what happened today here in Fordyce. Now, what we do know is that shooting happened around 11:30 a.m. at the Mad Butcher grocery store. It's the only grocery store in the city. It's right behind me, and as I'm looking, it's still very active. Police are still taping off the area, still investigating. They have their evidence markers out, and we can still see the bullet holes through the window of the grocery store. 14 people were shot total. 3 of those people have died. 2 officers are injured, and police tell us there was one shooter. He is in custody. He was injured, but he is expected to live. Colonel Mike Hager was speaking at that press conference today, and he had some sentimental words to share with the community.
It's tragic. Our hearts are broken. Our prayers, along with Governor Sanders, the entire state of Arkansas, will be with this community and with those affected victims.
Now, we weren't able to ask questions at that press conference, but we want to know who the shooter was and why he did this. Colonel Mike Hager said they will be releasing more information tonight, and the governor said she was putting in every resource she has into Fordyce and making sure that they are assisted and taken care of.
That's a lot of the questions that people have who live near here, who saw the shooting, who were in the store when it happened. People want to know why it happened, how it happened, and what's next. I did speak with a lot of people, including one woman who was just shopping for dinner with her family when she said she started hearing shots fired.
I just seen everybody ducking, and I just seen shots coming through the window, and so that's when I had hurry up and grab my brother because he was in the buggy. So I had hurry up and grab my brother, and we had ran. By that time, my mama had met me halfway. She was like, they shooting, they shooting, they shooting. And by that time, they got ready to close the freezer. Mama was like, can we get in with y'all? So we got in. By that time, maybe 10 minutes later, the police had opened the door, and then they had all just let us out. The police officer had us in their arms, and they was covering our face. They was like, don't look down, because it was like just bodies laying there and just blood everywhere. You never think you just went in the grocery store to buy supper later, and they just start shooting out of nowhere.
And when you get close enough to the grocery store, you can see just a handful of bullet holes in the grocery store window. It's just hard to see. I mean, even seeing workers still with their Mad Butcher aprons on, coming straight out of work, still processing what happened. Because this is such a small, close-knit town, a lot of them said they knew a friend in there, or they drove as soon as they heard because their relative was in there. So definitely hard for this community, something that everyone's going to try and figure out how to move on from. And a big part of that right now is asking those questions about what comes next and how did this all happen.
Probably knew most of the people.
Small town.
Small town, yeah.
Have you seen anything like this before?
Never. This doesn't happen here.
This is the only grocery store we got, but this is the first time something like this ever happened. Little small town of Fordyce. I couldn't believe it. It's unbelievable.
It's like you see on TV, pow, 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 shotguns and small armed fire. I'm a former police officer, so I was armed, and I let these people know that that they would be safe inside the building with us. And we had a lot of kids that was really traumatized.
A lot of the police cars have left. The road is open behind me, and now they're towing out cars with bullet holes in them. So definitely still figuring out what happened. We can see police still in the store, still assessing the scene. But outside the store, there's a new sign up tonight. We don't know when it was put up or by who, but I know it's an important message for a lot of people in Fordyce tonight. A lot of thoughts with this town as they go through this tragedy. Definitely a hard scene to be at, to speak to these people, and now, as Arkansans, really follow this as well.
63-year-old Shirley Taylor was one of the victims of Friday's mass shooting. Her daughter Angela Ashley told me about the woman her kids called Meemaw.
She loved working with her hands. She was the hardest working woman I ever knew.
Angela says Shirley was strong, taking care of her husband who's severely diabetic. She says the moment she knew Shirley was gone was unthinkable.
There's no words. She was my best friend. She was our family rock.
She told me about that moment when her son couldn't get a hold of Shirley amidst the chaos.
And he couldn't get her to answer the phone. And that's just when I kind of knew then that my mama was gone.
She, along with her children, told me story after story about Shirley, how funny, sarcastic, and loving she was. Angela says the emotions she's feeling after losing her can't be put into words.
I'm almost numb. Like it just, like I lost a piece of me or something. I don't know how to explain the hurt.
But she says the love from the entire Fordyce community makes this difficult time a little bit easier. Angela mentioned her co-workers, old school friends, even the Fordyce Bank and Trust.
The bank president, they are taking care of Mom's funeral, and I really, really don't have the words to tell them how much I'm appreciative for that.
23-year-old Callie Weems is another one of the 3 people who were killed in yesterday's mass shooting. We spoke with Callie's mother, Helen, who confirmed that her daughter was killed while grocery shopping at Mad Butcher. Callie's mom tells us her daughter worked as a licensed practical nurse at the Dallas County Medical Center.
Her nurse practitioner, Corey, assured me that I didn't want to see her and that it was her. The past 9-10 months watching her with her daughter has just been a piece of heaven. She was a single mom. She was doing it all on her own. She was working, she was paying her bills, she was paying her rent.
She needed a break.
Sometimes she needed a break. And I think that's one thing that's not really made this so surreal yet, is I was supposed to keep Ivy last night. And of course I did keep Ivy. But I just know there's going to be a time that she's going to say, Mama. And what am I supposed to do?
The city of Fordyce is mourning the loss of loved ones, friends, and neighbors involved in Friday's deadly mass shooting at Mad Butcher grocery store.
And those of us that's thankful that it wasn't us that was here, we need to remember that there was those that was here that suffered consequences of an act of violence that they did not deserve, that they wasn't a part of.
Candlelights burning vigorously throughout the night at the prayer vigil in front of the store, each representing a victim caught in the crossfire of this senseless attack.
Kind of unbelievable when you start hearing names, because I know everybody, like all the victims, from either one of them being my daughter's babysitter at one point, to going to school with people, either working on their vehicles. It was just, I don't know, it hit home.
One of those candles holding a very special name, Callie Weems. Callie was 23 years old, a mother of a 10-month-old baby, and a nurse at Dallas County Medical Center. There she spent her life's mission administering aid to others, which she would do until her last breath.
I can tell you that she was shot while rendering aid to another gunshot victim. Instead of fleeing the store, she stopped to render aid. In one of the most selfless acts I've ever seen.
Callie was one of the 4 victims who died from Friday's shooting, and for this community, it's one that will always be remembered.
I can't even begin to imagine how you feel. I'm not even going to try to. But I can tell you this. Fordyce, you've not been forgotten.
Although Fordyce is a small city in numbers, its love for their own outweighs it all.
From the shotgun shells grazed me there, and in my arm, and see my arm's all black and blue there.
Each bruise and each scar represents Silas Compton's survival after fighting for his life and helping others in Friday's deadly shooting.
And I see him down the aisle shooting at people, and the front windows are out of the Mad Butcher. Some of them are all just shattered because he shot them and stuff, and people are screaming, and you know, it's a sad situation, I can tell. And so I go in there and I yell at him, and I can't say exactly what I said, but I told him to stop. And whenever I did, I guess he turned around towards me, and so I ducked, and he shot.
Compton says fortunately he wasn't hit directly by a bullet. However, those injuries didn't keep him down as he managed to get up and warn others.
You know, very glad I was there and able to help out, you know, and I wish we could have kept more people from dying.
During this tragedy, Compton recalled only thinking about his wife who has cancer.
My wife was on the phone with me, and at one point, whenever I pass out, she's still on the phone with me for like 2 hours. And she don't know whether I'm dead or what.
Compton says he lived in Fordyce for more than a decade, a place he calls home, and never thought this would happen.
And it saddens me every time I see it, and it just angers me because it's not something that should be going on.
3 days after a deadly shooting rampage in Fordyce, now a sign, "We are Fordyce Strong," sits atop the grocery store where it all happened.
Signs of prayers and support continue to pop up around the city and the state of Arkansas as the small town tries to pick up the pieces.
Our heart really goes out to him, and we want to express our care and our love from Warren to the people here in Fordyce.
Vernon and Tammy Colvin visited from neighboring town Warren, placing flowers at the memorial in front of the Mad Butcher.
Fordyce for us is just like Warren. It's a small community. This is one of those places we have a Mad Butcher down in Warren as well, and everybody knows everybody.
It means a lot to know that people are coming trying to help us.
Fordyce Mayor John McNichol said he remembers Callie.
I knew her ever since she was in high school. She worked right across the road there at the round table. Callie was a hero. Callie run back in to cover her, a worker in there that just checked her out, risking her life to go back in there. And Roy was in there. He went over to cover Callie because they were kin.
Mayor McNichol has been in touch with the families. He said his next step is making sure his police officers are taken care of.
This will not define us, and it will not divide us.
It was something no one could have predicted, a mass shooting at the only grocery store in Fordyce.
Get rid of the threat as quickly as possible. And, you know, that was what's on my mind. It was horrific.
Sheriff Mike Knadel said it took swift action from officers to secure the scene and start rendering aid.
4 minutes and 40 seconds into the first 911 call, the suspect was down. And it doesn't get much better than that.
Sheriff Knadel says his job doesn't stop at the scene of the crime. He's helped to set up a donation account for officers and victims at the Fordyce Bank and Trust. Now, law enforcement is making sure the town remains safe as they continue to mourn. Bradley, Calhoun, and Drew County deputies have been assisting for the past several days as Fordyce officers take time to care for their families and themselves.
Things are kind of getting back to normal, but we are constantly working with the city.
THV11's Rebecca Brown is live outside of the Mad Butcher grocery store where the tragedy happened. It's reopened its doors today. Rebecca, what have you seen so far?
There has been so many emotions out here today at the Mad Butcher grocery store, everything from tears to laughter. But the most important thing that's been visible since day one being in this community is the love they have for each other, and it was just a great sight to see. Just following reopening the doors, the mayor of Fordyce told us that several renovations were made for the public to be able to re-enter the store. There are also 2 emotional support animals at the front, providing support for the workers and the customers as well. And an important note here is opening the doors today was a decision not only made by the Mad Butcher grocery store, but the community leaders and people of Fordyce. I spoke to a lifelong resident who said she didn't know what to expect today, but she loved seeing everyone hug and love each other, and that describes Fordyce as a whole.
When I drove up on the parking lot, there was just great peace, and then I just walked in and I saw how everyone was in a great mood. Everybody was laughing. You could tell they were a little, but in the same breath, I'm here. and their presence and just having all the support here.
At today's grand opening, some of the shooting victims' families were here, as well as state leaders like Attorney General Tim Griffin and State Senator Matt Stone, showing support for the community of Fordyce.